What's up and welcome back to HBCU Game Day. I am Symone Stanley and we are about to get into week 1 Black college football action. We have tons of matchups and classics to preview for you guys. I am here in our Atlanta studios and I am joined by the Wilton Jackson. He's going to be joining us all season long. Wilton, we're coming off of the SWAC Challenge, a couple of other week 0 games. How are you feeling after week 0?
Symone, I'm just glad that football is back on. I mean, of course, I was watching some of those same games that you just referred to. I had my eye on that Jackson State game against Louisiana Monroe. That was actually a close game than what the score revealed at the end. Watched a little bit of that one. I'd hate to see Arkansas Pine Bluff get blown out like they did, but watched a little bit of that game as well. Also had my eye on that Howard Rutgers game because that was a close game, 17-7 at one point in that game. But, I mean, overall, it's just good to have football back.
Absolutely. Now, all we need is for the temperatures to drop just a little bit, We just need that weather, that little breeze to come in.
Absolutely.
But let's go ahead and preview some week 1 matchups. We're going to preview some HBCU on HBCU games, starting with South Carolina State versus FAMU. This will be our first glimpse of the Chennis Berry era in South Carolina State. FAMU, we got a little taste of them last weekend at the SWAC Challenge. They're coming in to this matchup with a win, and they're also coming in undefeated at home from last season. Wilton, what are you looking out for the most?
Symone, when I look at this game, it's been intriguing for me since, looking at the schedules when they came out back in the earlier part of this year. But what I'm looking to see specifically on FAMU side is, can Daniel Richardson replicate that performance that he had last week against the Bulldogs? When you start talking about, Daniel Richardson, when we came in, when we discussed him last week, we were thinking to ourselves, what were we going to get from him and what type of performance were we going to get? And he absolutely had a prolific performance. So I'm looking to see, can he duplicate that against the Bulldogs? And then also to see what the Rattlers rushing attack will look like. We saw them pick up a little bit more steam in the running game in the second half. I'm interested to see how much and how involved will Kelvin Dean be in that rushing attack for FAMU coming into this game. You're also talking about a South Carolina State defense that was pretty stingy against the run last year. They were first in run defense and third in the MEAC in total defense. But granted, this is a whole new squad. That was Buddy Pugh's squad. And now we're talking about a Chennis Berry team, or a Chennis Berry-led team, and the numbers he produced at Benedict last year. I mean, I'm just going to list some of them for you. First in scoring defense, first in total defense, second in rush defense. So, I mean, we know when Chennis Berry squads get on the field, defense is a priority. And then, of course, with FAMU is the special teams. We know what Trey Wilhoit can do in terms of being able to flip the field for, putting opposing defenses in there, putting opposing offenses in their own territory, so that could be a help for them. And then also, one of the next biggest things is making sure that FAMU maintains its run defense for all 4 quarters. Like I said, that first half, Norfolk State had its way with FAMU in running the ball, and so they tightened things up in the second half. So those are some of the keys I'm looking to see from FAMU's standpoint.
A lot of eyes are going to be on that game, of course, the defending Celebration Bowl champions. They're going to have all the eyes on them all season long. But also South Carolina State, a new regime, a new sheriff in town. A lot of people are going to want to see what this Chennis Berry era of South Carolina State football looks like. So that's a very exciting game that we have coming up. But we also have to talk about the Labor Day Classic SWAC on SWAC game. We have Texas Southern University taking on Prairie View, 2 teams that are expected to make some noise this season in the SWAC.
It is, Symone, and this is an interesting yet intriguing game because for a couple of reasons. I mean, we could just start with the coaches. You're talking about a Bubba McDowell and a Chris Dishman, former teammates with the Houston Oilers back in the day. And, I had a chance to talk to them extensively over the last couple of days and just learn a little bit more about them as friends. And Symone, while they'll be, adversaries on the field when the 2 teams play, they really are friends. Like, they don't, having talked to both coaches, they don't even actually talk a lot about football anymore. They talk amongst themselves as friends and, helping each other out in terms of different things and, family and things like that. But I'll say this, in terms of looking at this game, Prairie View has won the last 9 meetings. Now, last year, Texas Southern was on pace to get that win against Prairie View, but they ended up losing at the final seconds of that game thanks to a touchdown from Trayvon Conley. But this is a different team. This is a Chris Dishman team that's going to be ready, that's going to be pumped. And, to go up against, when you're Chris Dishman, you're going up against your former teammate as a coach. I mean, it's going to just be exciting to see. So when I look at Prairie View, I think about the new quarterback they have in Lucas Coley. Can he replicate, or can he have success, or the same level of success that Trayvon Conley had for Prairie View? You're talking about a quarterback who's, a transfer from the University of Houston by way of Arkansas. He's going to get his chance to get in that role and lead this offense. One thing to also note, too, that the Panthers have a new offensive coordinator, Anthony Wheaton, and from having talked to wide receiver Shamar Savage, their offense is going to look pretty good, according to Savage. And then also, obviously, Prairie View presents the idea of having a bevy of running backs. And so thinking about that, you're talking about a Connor Wisham, a Scooter Adams, and Lamajier McDowell. So these are going to be key pieces for Prairie View if they hope to continue this winning streak of getting this win in the Labor Day Classic.
Labor Day has a lot of good matchups, okay? We have another one that we have to get into, the Orange Blossom Classic. Gone is JSU versus FAMU, which we've seen the last couple of seasons in the Orange Blossom Classic. In comes, can we call this MEAC SWAC Challenge Part 2? We have we have North Carolina Central University versus Alabama State. Two teams that are going to be debuting new quarterbacks for their program. Two teams that have had a lot of success the past couple of seasons, but a lot of changes are going to be in place this season. Wilton, where do we even start with these two?
So I'm going to start with North Carolina Central first. And I know we kind of discussed it and alluded to it last week, but no more Davius Richard. So it's just like Davius Richard, excuse me. So in that is knowing that now you have a North Carolina Central quarterback by the name of Walker Harris who's stepping into some big shoes to fill. And so he's going to get his opportunity to be the starting quarterback for North Carolina Central. Obviously, we know we've seen him a little bit on tape. He completed 60 of 97 passes. For 581 yards through 28 total games. But, we talk about him, and then you also talk about a Jamari Taylor coming back from a running standpoint. Can they, keep this dominance of being that team in the MEAC to get a win against a really, really good Alabama State team, at least projected on paper, and especially a strong defensive Alabama State team. But when we talk about quarterbacks in North Carolina Central, we can't forget about Alabama State. This is a team who's also dealing with quarterback a situation in terms of, will they start Andrew Body or will they go with Jonah O'Brien, the Eastern Illinois transfer? And so that's still kind of hanging up in the air on that decision. But regardless of which of the quarterbacks start, this is going to be a good game. Matter of fact, having talked to some other people, just around the HBCU landscape, some think that this could be a potential Celebration Bowl matchup, maybe, kind of. I don't know. A lot to be said there.
Well, if this is going to be a Celebration Bowl preview, we need to see a lot of good football being played in this game. That's a great one to watch. Like we said, two new signal callers for both of these teams. Both of these teams experiencing a lot of changes this offseason, but change, is one thing that's given in football, especially college football. You got to be able to recruit and have that next man up. But let's talk about a MEAC on MEAC game. We talked about SWAC on SWAC. We talked about some MEAC SWAC. It's time for just some all MEAC action. As we look up north, we have Hampton versus Morgan State. Morgan State, a team coming in with a lot of expectations. Again, you can never sleep on that defense from the Bears.
Absolutely. So, this is an old MEAC competition. Obviously, Hampton in the CAA, but this is going to be a good game. I'm really excited about this one as well. Hampton has a interim coach that has stepped in Trent Boykin, so he's getting a chance to lead the team. He was the former running backs coach and special teams coordinator. And then, of course, we know Damon Wilson at Morgan State coming into another season. And one thing you know about Damon Wilson, we're going to get a lot of good defense from those Bears. And so a couple things to look out for in this game is obviously Hampton brings back Elijah Burge. You talk about if you like running and you like running backs and you like power running backs, look no further than Elijah Burge. You're talking about somebody who averaged, almost 115 yards per game last year. Hampton led the CAA in rushing in 2023. And then also they have another running back by the name of Darren Butts, who's just as phenomenal as Elijah Burge. And so when you think about that and think about even with a coach like Damon Wilson who hones in on defense, it's going to be a tough matchup for Morgan State. And, some things to think about with that. And then two, their quarterback. You talk about a quarterback like Chris Zealous for Hampton. He's a running threat and also can pass the ball. He threw for almost 1,500 yards last year, 13 touchdowns. He's going to be consistent. And then also, you know, when you start talking about Morgan State, this is very much a run-based team. So we're looking at a quarterback with Morgan State and Todd Smith. He appeared in 5 games and started in the last 4 games last season. Somebody to definitely to keep your eye on in that particular regard. And then also J.J. Davis was their key contributor in the running game last year, so he's back. They have a couple wide receivers to keep your eye on in Anthony James and Dempier Shipley. So when you look at this game, this is really going to come down to which team can make the most plays. Really more so, if anything, if you're Morgan State, you're going to probably have to find a way to win this game beyond just being able to run the ball, and also for sure relying on your defense for sure.
Absolutely. And excuse me, I keep forgetting CAA, Hampton, CAA, MEAC. But one inter-HBCU matchup we do have for sure is SIAC versus SIAC this weekend. One big game a lot of Division II fans are going to have their eyes on. Clark Atlanta University versus Fort Valley State University is going down in Georgia. Head coach Teddy Keaton is taking over for Clark Atlanta University. Fort Valley State University is coming back in hot under Coach Gibbs. They're expected to finish number 2 in the SIAC.
Absolutely, Simone. You couldn't have said it any better. And when I think about this, I mean, I know we talked about it last week with the rat poison, but honestly, I'm going to tune in this game to watch just to see how much change has happened at Clark Atlanta. Obviously, you know, teams make changes and coaches make changes all the time from one year to the next. And so I'm interested to see what Clark Atlanta is putting together over there, you know, obviously down in downtown Atlanta, to see what they're going to put on the field. And they have some key players that's going to be stepping on the field for them. You're talking about an offensive lineman and Elijah Sharif, quarterback David Wright, who we know very well, transferred from Allen. We know all SIAC preseason first team selection. He's going to have to get going in this particular game if they hope to get the upset against Fort Valley. And then also, you know, 2 key contributors in CAU's defense that stand out to me are the defensive backs in DeLille Wilkins and Cameron Ivey. If you want to be able to get off the field and get the opposing, you know, get Fort Valley State's offense off the field, defense has to be ready to play. And we know what Fort Valley State is going to bring. You know, they have a running back in Brandon Marshall and defensive back Kamari Blankumsey. Then they also have a linebacker to really keep your name and to really look at for them would be Malik Harp. Somebody that could definitely make some big plays. So I'm excited to see how this game turns out.
Yeah, we're excited to see how all of the games turn out. We wish we could preview every single game, but we'll be here all day and night. But guys, that is our week 1 preview. Is going down tomorrow all weekend long. HBCU football week 2 preview from HBCU Game Day. I am Symone Stanley. He is a Wilton Jackson. And until we talk to you guys next week.